On June 29th, 2007, a battle quietly began. Every year since, this battle has intensified, claiming even more victims. June 29th was when Apple released the very first iPhone, and ever since that date, there has been a battle between and Android. My objective today is to show you that Android phones are less costly, provide better customization, and are more advanced than their iPhone counterparts. Now, I've worked in the cell phone industry for about the last 5 years now, and due to that, I can provide you a unique perspective on this that you can't get anywhere else, because my job is to help people make that decision every day and help them choose, should they do Android or should they do iPhone? And based on what they tell me, we help them make the correct decision. In September of this year, Apple released the iPhone 7. Retail cost of that device still today, $649, which is actually fairly normal for a very nice phone. That's generally how much they cost if it is an iPhone. The curators of a website, zdnet.com, did a teardown of the iPhone 7 a couple days after release, that the parts inside had cost Apple a grand total of $206. That is a ton of markup on your product. The hardware costs less than a third of the phone's ultimate cost, which that is great for Apple. They are the most profitable technology company in the world, but that is not good for a consumer. For someone that knows that is a lot of extra costs that they have to ensue. Now, I have a couple phones here. I have a Motorola Moto E. This is an Android phone, and I have an iPhone 5C. Look at these things. They're very, very similar. They're about the same size. They both have cameras. They both have speakers. 95% of the exact same things. And yet this is actually a phone that you can get for $10. Whereas this, when it released, was right around that same price. It was about $650. So you have to ask yourself, are you willing to spend that much extra money and know that Apple is making that much extra money on you simply because it has an Apple on the back of the device? I want to talk to you a little bit about customization on these devices. Android phones, because you can do things like widgets. So for example, I have a home screen here, and this big box here, these are actually all of my Google Chrome bookmarks, and I would actually be able to go in here, select one of those, and it would pop me right to a bookmark. And there's hundreds of thousands of widgets is what they call them. You can make them do anything you want, and you could really make this phone exactly how you want it instead of it being very locked down like the iPhone. An experience I had with this particular phone here. So when I got this, I already had an Android phone, and so I didn't need to use this as a daily phone or anything. So I thought it'd be fun to experiment and see what I could do with it. I actually turned it into a security camera. I mounted it on the outside of my home, and I was able to actually monitor my home remotely because of this device, and it cost me $10. So the sky is the limit as far as, you know, developers and people that want to try stuff being able to get their hands on something like this at a price of $10 and being able to further along technology and things like that. Whereas on Apple, you'd have to put up a great amount of money to do that. You can also put custom operating systems on Android phones. My mother is a very good example of this. So she got a smartphone about a year ago, and when we were looking around at them, she was looking at iPhones and other ones, and she did not want to spend $600 or $700 for a phone. She knew that she would not use it to that extent. So I actually got her a phone. It was a Samsung S3 that was a couple of years old, and I did exactly what I've kind of been mentioning here to you guys as far as customization. I was able to take the operating system off of it. I was able to install a new one on there that was actually developed for older phones. And then I was able to put widgets on there and, you know, big icons and make it exactly how she wanted. And she still uses that phone today and can probably keep using that for many, many years to come because of this customization that I'm talking about. Now, there's some people who want a more advanced device, and Android also offers that as well. And I bet there's some of you right now that are saying, but Bryant, we're not all geeks like you. We don't know how to plug the phone in and unlock the bootloader and put flash custom firmware and things like that. And that's fine. That's normal. It's actually quite technical to do all that. But just know that there are places that are willing to do it. The Verizon store, for example, is not going to even touch something like that. But for example, in Idaho Falls, there's a store called eTech Accessories, and that is one of the services that they offer. You could take them an older Android phone and have them put different versions of the OS on there. So Android has, phones that range from $10 like this guy here, all the way up to, $200 or $300, and you actually get an extremely advanced device when you are willing to spend $200 or $300. Some examples of that. I have a question. How many of you hate passwords? I know that I do. They're the worst. I can't remember them. I have to change them every month, and it's just the worst. I had an Android phone at one point. It was the Samsung Note 7, which actually had an iris scanner. I was able to hold the phone's camera up to my eyeball, and it scanned it and unlocked the phone by looking at my eyeball. Also, how many of you have ever had a phone where after a while, after a couple of years, the charging port gets worn out? You'd like to keep using the phone, but it doesn't really charge anymore because this is just completely worn out. Most Android phones now support wireless charging. So whenever there's advances in the technology or new things coming down the pipe, they usually hit Android first because they know that they'll be adopted. And Android users as a whole are not afraid to try out new things like that, whereas on Apple you're a lot more restricted because Apple wants to make sure they have tested everything 100% and that the user experience will always be perfect, which is fine. That's their business. So today I've kind of shown you that Android phones are cheaper than iPhones, and you don't lose anything because of that. They're much more customizable, and you can make them last a lot longer because of being able to put custom operating systems and widgets and things like that. And they're also much more advanced, with the example of the iris scanner, for example. And so I'm not asking that you drop your iPhones and get an Android phone. All I'm saying is that you should try it. Most stores offer a 14-day return policy on their products. You could actually get an Android phone when you have an upgrade. Try it, and if you don't like it, take it back. That is fine. But I do ask that you do yourself a favor, save yourself some money, and try Android.